Hey friends and family, it's Kevin here from Diary of a Chubby Yogi. Welcome. If it's your first time here, please like and subscribe downstairs. If it's not, welcome back. So for today's installment, I thought we'd look a little bit more at some of the mythology that we have around yoga. And in particular, Virabhadra, our warrior poses. I did this for my first workshop. I love the story of how the warrior got its name. And it all begins a very long time ago with a king called Daksha. Now, Daksha was a very devout king. He used to do the fire ceremonies, and he was he made sure that everything got done on time, and he loved and respected the gods. For his devotion to the gods, they decided to reward him by giving him a sacred child, and this child they named Sati. Sati was beautiful, even as a baby, just loving, kind, intelligent, and it was the crown, it was the jewel in Daksha's crown. Anyway, time, as it does, flies past very quickly, and I got to the stage of Sati's life where she was due to be married. Now, Daksha, as any father would, he wants the best for his daughter, but his daughter, along her way, she has become faithfully devoted to Lord Shiva. Daksha doesn't like this. Now, if mythology is a new thing to you, Shiva, he is the king of the yogis. He's a bit of a rock and roll star. He hangs out in graveyards. He's covers himself in ash. He's constantly hanging around with these demons and these sages, and they're all hanging out in Mount Kailash and chilling out, smoking these pipes, and it's the last kind of person that any kind of respectable father wants his daughter to marry. But Sati was devout. Daksha was dismayed. So he decided to hatch a plan. Anyway, and his plan was this. He was going to throw a party for Sati and invite all of the princes, all of the nobles, but he wasn't going to send invitations out to Shiva because he didn't want him to know about this. And what the plan was is that he would give Sati a garland of flowers, and Sati was to throw the garland of flowers out into the crowd, and whoever's head it landed on, they would be immediately married and sent off to live their life. Daksha thought this was an amazing plan. Sati, however, gets wind of this plan, and she goes and she starts to pray. Oh, Shiva, Shiva, Om Nimah Shiva, Om Nimah Shiva, Om Nimah Shiva. And she prays and prays and prays to her Lord. And her devotion is strong. And Shiva, who is meditating up in Mount Kailash, he hears what's going on. Anyway, the day of the party arrives. All the princes are there, and Sati gets a blindfold around her and gets handed the garland of flowers, and as she throws the garland of flowers into the crowd, so Shiva appears out of nowhere and the garland of flowers lands around his neck. She takes the blindfold off and is obviously elated. It's like, this is the best thing ever. Daksha, however, in the cartoon fashion, his jaw hits the ground. Worst case scenario. However, these are his rules, and he has to abide to these rules. So, Daksha, he's a noble person. So he does exactly that. And Sati and Shiva are married, and they go off to live their life in the forest. And some time passes by, and this really starts to eat at King Daksha. I just can't believe it. His beautiful daughter, the jewel of his crown, defiled by this monster, this thing. And it comes time, as I said, Daksha was a devout king, and it comes time for the annual fire ceremony. It's something that's where a lot of people get together. And Daksha starts organizing this, and in his fashion, he invites everybody except for Shiva and Sati, because he just doesn't want to see her. Sati sees all the invitations going out and hears of all the people getting excited about the party and waits for hers, and nothing arrives. And eventually the day of the ceremony comes and nothing has arrived, and Sati says to Shiva, Shiva, this must be a mistake. There's no way my father would have forgotten about us. I mean, I love him. He loves me. We love each other. Why would we be left out? Shiva basically goes, I don't want to get involved. It's the affairs of mortals. I'm just, whatever. Not really keen. Sati says, no, there must be something wrong. I'm going to go and find out what's going on. And she puts herself in disguise and goes to her father's home, where they're having this huge party. And she sees that, they're not missed. There's not a place for them at the table. And she is so confused, she throws off her costume and goes to her father and says, "Father, what's going on? Why have you forgotten us? Why have you left us out?" And Daksha, seeing her, just breaks down, and he goes into a rage, and he's like, "How could you do this to me? How could you marry? How could you be so devoted to this horrible thing? Hey, how could you bring shame upon our house? Our blessing from heaven defiled." Hearing these words coming from her father's mouth, it absolutely breaks Sati's heart. And Sati throws herself into the ceremonial fire and dies immediately, bursts into flames. This being Shiva's love, he immediately senses her departure from this realm, and it hits him in the heart. He flies into a rage because he knows exactly what's happened. He grabs his hair and he pulls out one of his dreadlocks and he hurtles it to the ground. As he does this, the energy that he manifests through his rage goes into that dreadlock, and that dreadlock spikes through the planet and starts to weave its way all the way through to King Daksha's palace. As it's doing this, it's starting to manifest its knotted rage, reaching out and ready to explode, and it's exactly what it does. It bursts up through into Daksha's ceremony. And it's no longer this mat of dreadlock hair, but it's now this dark-skinned warrior, multiple arms, multiple faces, as our Hindu friends love to have their pantheon. And he draws his sword and he lobs this head off King Daksha, and then grabs it and places it nice and firmly onto the altar. And that's where we get our three positions from. Him bursting through the ground, drawing his sword to cut the head of Daksha, and as we move into number 3, leaning forward and placing the head onto the altar. What do we learn from this? We learn that it is foolish to judge another's love or to try and bend it over our will like King Daksha. We learn that it is foolish to let love blind you and everything else like Sati. We learn that only a fool takes love for granted, like Shiva. In the practice of yoga, we can use this story to remind us of the related positions that we have. So for start, don't judge yourself too harshly. If your body doesn't bend as you wish, you must be kind. Trust the process. Take time to meditate. It'll quiet the mind and set it free from the constraints of good and bad. And also allows us to go into the world with gratitude, kindness, and compassion for others. I just want to give a big thanks to you guys for watching the video, and I look forward to seeing you again. Please leave any comments and things downstairs, and don't forget, like and subscribe. More likes, more subscribes, more good videos. Look forward to seeing you guys soon. Take care.